What if I told you that the person who ruins your life the most is not your parents, not your boss, not your enemies, not even society? It's you. Yes, you. You are the architect of your own misery, and deep down, you know it. Every time you ignore your instincts, every time you settle for less than you deserve, every time you silence that voice inside that begs you to break free, you are slowly suffocating yourself. We live in a world that tells us to look outward for answers. Find success here. Find happiness there. Seek approval from them. And yet the truth is, we are not destroyed by the outside world as much as we are destroyed by the wars we wage within ourselves. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Think about that. Most of what you call bad luck, what you call unfairness, what you call life punishing me, it's really your shadow hiding in plain sight. Imagine this. You've been offered an opportunity, something that could change everything. But your first reaction is not excitement, it's fear. What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? What if they see through me? So instead of taking the leap, you hesitate, you procrastinate, and finally, you let it pass. Then you sit there, blaming the world, convinced that life has been unfair to you. But deep down, you know the truth. You were the one who walked away. This is self-sabotage, and it is the most dangerous enemy of all, because it hides under your own skin. Think of all the small betrayals you commit against yourself every day. The dreams you abandon before you even try. The kind words you never say. The health you neglect. The passions you suppress because it's not practical. Each of these little acts seems harmless in isolation, but accumulate them over years, decades even, and you have built an entire life that is not truly yours. Nietzsche warned us, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster." And here's the terrifying truth. Most of us don't even notice when we become the monsters of our own lives. We become greedy for comfort, cruel to ourselves, and blind to our own potential. Friedrich Nietzsche also wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But how many of us have truly found our why? We chase money, approval, pleasure, yet wake up feeling empty. We scroll endlessly, consume endlessly, desire endlessly, and then complain that life feels meaningless. It's not the world that is hollow, it's us. We are hollow because we have filled ourselves with noise instead of truth. And here's the darkest part. Sometimes we cling to our suffering because it is familiar. Because as long as we suffer, we don't have to face the terrifying responsibility of changing. Plato told the story of the cave. People chained in darkness, mistaking shadows for reality. But ask yourself honestly, if you were in that cave, would you even want to leave? Freedom is not as glamorous as it sounds. Freedom means choice. Choice means risk. Risk means responsibility. And most people don't want responsibility. They want excuses. So they stay chained, even when the doors open. They prefer the familiar misery of shadows over the blinding light of truth. Think of the moments when you pretended not to care, when you laughed off your dreams as unrealistic, when you stayed in a toxic relationship because loneliness felt scarier than abuse, when you convinced yourself that mediocrity was good enough. These are not accidents, they are choices. And every time you make them, you are betraying yourself. The philosopher Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said, "The ultimate test of a moral society is the kind of world it leaves to its children. But the ultimate test of a human being is the kind of world they create within themselves." Your mind is like a theater. In the front row sits your conscious self, the part you are aware of. But in the back rows, hidden in darkness, sit your fears, your regrets, your insecurities, your shadow self. And every decision you make is influenced more by those hidden actors than by the person you think you are. How many times have you wanted to speak up, but your fear of judgment silenced you? How many times have you wanted to leave, but your anxiety kept you chained? How many times have you wanted to live fully, but your own inner critic convinced you it was too dangerous? You are not weak, you are trapped. And the prison bars are made of your own choices, your own fears, your own unexamined mind. Machiavelli wrote that people prefer security over freedom, even if that security is an illusion. Think about your life. How many illusions do you cling to? How many habits, routines, relationships, beliefs, just because they feel safe? And how many of those are quietly destroying you from the inside? The paradox is cruel. The very things that comfort you are often the things that imprison you. The very things you rely on to feel safe are the chains you wear. Let me tell you a story. There was a man, let's call him Marcus. He had a talent for art that could move people to tears. But Marcus was terrified of rejection. He worked a safe job in an office he hated. Every night he returned to his tiny apartment and promised himself he would start tomorrow. Years passed. His talent faded under dust and self-doubt. He became bitter, blaming life for what never happened. The cruel irony, he had the power all along. The doors to his freedom were never locked. He simply never dared to walk through them. Marcus is not just a story. He is you, me, all of us in one way or another. And here's the twist that most people cannot face. The life you live is exactly the life you created. Not consciously, of course, but through every hesitation, every fear, every compromise, every small act of self-betrayal. You built this. And if you are honest, you are afraid to admit it. Because if you admit it, you also admit that change is possible, and change is terrifying. But here's the secret the philosophers, psychologists, and mystics all agree on. You are more powerful than you realize. The shadow within you is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Your fear shows you where you are meant to grow. Your envy reveals what you secretly desire. Your anger exposes what you can no longer tolerate. Instead of running from these emotions, sit with them. Listen to them. Because in their whispers, you will find the map back to yourself. Think about this. Every hero in history faced the same enemy you face today. Not the external tyrant, but the internal one. Marcus Aurelius battled his anger. Nelson Mandela battled his hatred and despair. Bonhoeffer faced his fear of death and moral compromise. You are not alone in your struggle, and the fact that you recognize it, that you feel this discomfort, is the first spark of freedom. Let's go deeper. Consider how humans are wired for distraction. Shakespeare wrote, "There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." Modern psychology confirms it. Your mind is constantly creating stories, fears, and worries that are not real, but feel real. Your smartphone, social media, the endless stream of entertainment, all of it feeds this illusion. You are literally training yourself to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, or worse, to avoid discomfort entirely. The irony is staggering. The more you avoid discomfort, the more trapped you become. Your fear of failing, of looking foolish, of being judged, of losing security, it is exactly what keeps you small. Here's another story. There was a woman named Sophia. She wanted to start a business, something creative, something meaningful. Every time she tried, doubt crept in. What if I'm not smart enough? What if people laugh? What if I fail? So she postponed and postponed again. Years later, she looked at her life and realized she had waited for permission that never existed. She had been waiting for life to hand her the green light. But the truth was, the green light was already in her hands. Sophia is not an anomaly. She is a mirror of what happens to millions of people every single day. Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to hear. You are sabotaging yourself, not because you are weak, but because you are human. Human beings are wired for comfort, for safety, for approval. And yet the very instincts that protect us can also destroy us. The question is not, why am I like this? The question is, will I rise above it? And that brings us to the ultimate paradox of human existence. The only person capable of truly saving you is the very same person who has been silently holding you back all along. Your shadow, your fear, your hesitation, they are both the prison and the key. Remember this, the world does not need to destroy you. You do it willingly. You betray yourself willingly. You stay small willingly. But you can also choose differently. When you stop hiding, life begins. When you stop lying to yourself, truth begins. When you stop sabotaging yourself, freedom begins. Montaigne once said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to yourself." And that is where life truly begins, when you finally find the courage to belong to yourself. So here's the question I'll leave you with tonight. Are you brave enough to stop being your own enemy and finally become your greatest ally? Because until you do, no philosopher, no book, no wisdom, no God can save you. Only you can. And here's one final, uncomfortable truth. Everything you have ever blamed on life, luck or others, everything you have ever called unfair or impossible, was already inside you, waiting for you to face it, waiting for you to either conquer it or be conquered by it. So will you rise, or will you keep hiding in the shadows, pretending not to see the chains you wear? The choice, as terrifying as it is, has always been yours. And in that choice lies your freedom.